Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Pastors Aaron and Jeannie. We're just celebrating our 30 years, and we're just talking about our past 30 years. We thought, we got to share how we had a successful marriage for 30 years. And so we were talking this morning. I was telling Jeannie, who was reading the Bible, and I said, marriage was the first human institution that God created before we even fell into sin. Before sin was introduced to humanity, marriage was the first institution. And I was talking to Jeannie, and I said, I'll ask you the same question. Did you feel like marriage was like, how did you feel that you were going to be married one day? Or I don't know how to ask the question, how I said it earlier. I said, did you know for a fact you were going to be married one day?
Well, growing up, that's all we thought about is marriage and a family, and it never occurred to me that I wouldn't be married.
I think I felt the same way. I just felt like that was an automatic process of life, that that's something in me. I just knew that as a man, I wanted to be married. I wanted to have a family, and I just knew that was going to happen. I had no doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I knew I wanted a family and children, and mm-hmm. I dreamt of the day when I would.
Well, same thing. I always wondered who until I met you. No. So when God created man, and I'm trying to keep this from being textbooky, you get a lot of how-to marriage. I'm not wanting to do this. I want to talk about how we had a successful marriage for 30 years. And I think first thing was don't be unequally yoked. That's just the only thing that I had before I met Jeannie. I said, whoever it is, the only standard I had in my mind, I said, they got to be a Christian. Because the Bible says, don't be, what does righteousness have to do with unrighteousness? Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you felt the same way. Mm-hmm. Believe it or not, being Pentecostal, though not Pentecostal, but closer, didn't have to be that. Just, I didn't care, Methodist, Baptist, whatever. I just wanted a born again lady. Mm-hmm. And Jeannie walks into my life. But there's a long journey from then. So we were talking about conflict. We see marriage as a covenant, not a contract. Though we didn't think in those terms. We didn't go, it's a covenant. But if that's our purpose in life, that literally, if that was the first human institution God made before man fell, I think you felt that you were going to commit for life.
Mm-hmm. Felt like, like family. I know, unfortunately, so many people don't have this type of family. They have a lot of broken families, no fathers, no mothers. Maybe they don't live with either one at all. Maybe living with grandparents. And I understand that. Mm-hmm. But to me, it's like I always felt that family should be everything. And once you're in a family, you don't ever leave the family.
No.
Just like when we're in God's family, once we've decided to join as a child of God, it's not like He won't be your father anymore if you decide you're going to get mad and walk away. Mm-hmm. You have your fights and then you get back to it.
Right. So the difference between covenant-minded, which is marriage being the foundation, literally it's the foundation of humanity, of society. Mm-hmm. That was the foundation of our lives. Like that was the main importance. And when Adam said, we'll leave mother and father and cleave to your wife and the two become one, that's a covenant. So whenever we had a fight, neither one of us really looked at, well, we're breaking the contract. Of course, those terms never came in our head, but in our soul, we were committed. So we got better at resolution, but our resolution was from a covenant-minded and not a contract-minded. And we're putting those terms in that we didn't think, but we were talking about that this morning. Mm-hmm. So the hardest part about that is, as born-again believers, we fought. And some fights were bad. Earlier, more so when we first got married. And I think practicing conflict resolution is a practice. For me, it was, I had to put my own pride down because at the end of the day, like you said, what did you say yesterday? The fights were over stupid stuff.
Most of the time it was just over, it was inconsequential things.
Mhm.
Um,
We never really, of course, we never did anything grave against each other. There was never an adultery, never, oh,
Most of our fights usually stem from a misunderstanding or a miscommunication
or selfishness.
or
I'll say on my part, So, when being a Christian, we're always humbling ourselves. Jesus, Paul said, marriage is like a extension of God marrying humanity. God did everything He could do to rectify the problems in the marriage between Him and his bride. I had to do that. And the biggest thing about men, as I was telling her, is that we have testosterone. There's a fight or flight that happens, and men's got to recognize that if you have a fight, that you can't just argue to win. And that was my biggest mistake, is that testosterone. I've got to win this. That was my biggest thing. Now, there's other men that probably have a flight. I'm just going to leave and get divorced. But once I got past that pridefulness of I've got to win this, she was more important than my pride. And like I said, resolution is a practice, but it comes from a covenant. Like, there is no other option. I'm with this lady for the rest of my life. What am I doing? Does it even matter that I can't even think of what we fought over, to be honest? Right at the moment, I was trying to go make up something, but because you know what? Forgive and forget, that's another thing. And you were telling me, how did you resolve things? Mine was, I'm going to win this thing. Yours was a little different.
Yeah, I usually needed to take time away from him, calm down, because I knew my emotions from my soul was getting in the way and it was all flared. And I knew if I step away from the conversation for a little bit, I'd come to my senses and say, well, that's not really worth fighting over, or he has a point.
And,
And-
yeah.
If given enough time to let my spiritual person talk to my soul
That's right.
and my ideas,
Yeah.
because I might have misunderstood what he said, and sometimes he says the wrong word for some reason.
I do that a
He
lot.
may say one thing which is the complete opposite meaning of what he meant, which would
I still
make
do
me
that.
mad. And because I thought that's what he
Meant.
said, I've gotten over the years knowing are you asking,
We've,
are you sure that's what you mean, or do you mean this? And then you're like, oh yeah.
because we've discovered this weird anomaly where I don't know what you would call it, never heard of it, where I say a different word than I'm thinking. And every once in a while I'll do that when I preach.
Mhm.
Like, I'll randomly say Moses when I mean somebody else. But anyway, so what I want to share is there's no textbook, there's no do this, don't do that. We're not doing that. We're saying this is how we got through it. Is less of me, more of Christ, and less of me, more of Jeannie. We've had to, as Christians, I think we both agreed that we had to put our carnality down and begin to listen to each other, and we practiced it. Not good at first, but as we clung to our faith and as we talked to each other, the trust built over the years. And so I know that her intent has always been to love me, and my intent's always been to love her, and we've trusted that more. We could have done that without Christ in us, talking us through. Jesus talked us through all this. I know that sounds crazy to someone who's not saved, but we'd get away, and the spirit man in us would always confirm Christ and love. And marriage is a covenant. So we just wanted to share that. Hope that blessed somebody. Did I get everything on my notes here? Marriage is your purpose. That is the number one purpose of life above everything. It was the original institution before man fell to sin. Marriage is your purpose of life. Find the one. That is what we're supposed to do. That's the first thing God did. And we have viewed marriage that way through conflict. Now, maybe tomorrow we'll talk about the good stuff.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the joys of marriage. God bless you guys. Hope this helps somebody. We're going to go out there and have a good time.
Mhm.
God bless.